Good morning. I'm Stephanie Benvenuto, Chair of the San Diego Housing Commission Board of Commissioners. It is 9:05 on November 12th, 2021, and I'm calling to order the special meeting of the board. The process we're using for today's meeting is authorized by Government Code 54953E, which was added by Assembly Bill 361. This allows the commission to use teleconferencing and provide the public with an opportunity to address the board through a call-in or internet-based option during a proclaimed state of emergency. The San Diego City Council on November 2nd, 2021 declared an ongoing state of emergency regarding the COVID-19 pandemic. The meeting is occurring by video conference with all board members or CEO, Housing Commission staff, and General Counsel participating by video. For the record, I'll ask each board member to indicate their presence as I say their name. Vice Chair Klumpner.
Here.
Commissioner Hester will not be joining us today. Commissioner Hubbard.
Present.
Thank you. Commissioner Mitchell.
Present.
Morning. No members of the public are in attendance. However, members of the public may watch the video conference and hear the audio of today's meeting, which is being streamed live online. The agenda for the meeting included a link to the website for the Commission Board of Commissioners, where the public can access live streaming for today's meeting. The public has been provided with an alternative opportunity to provide comments to the board through an online comment form and a toll-free phone number. A link to the online comment form was included on the agenda for today's meeting, which is posted on the website, www.sdhc.org, on Thursday, November 4th, 2021. The agenda and public comment form explain that comments about items on the agenda will be read into the record if they were submitted by 4 p.m. yesterday, Thursday, November 11th, 2021. Non-agenda public comments submitted by 8 o'clock this morning will be read into the record. In addition, members of the public who wish to speak on an item may call the toll-free phone number that is included on the agenda. Members of the public should monitor the meeting through the live video streaming available on the website, www.sdhc.org. Again, today's agenda includes a link to the website for the board where the public can access the live streaming for today's meeting. Members of the public should call the toll-free phone number only when the item they wish to comment on is introduced. If you call to comment on an item that's different from the one that's being currently considered, we're going to ask you to call back to the meeting at the appropriate time. Members of the public will have 3 minutes to provide their comments, but if a large number of callers wish to speak on a single item, comments may be limited to 1 minute each. The phone line is now open to provide non-agenda public comments. Please call 833-610-2513 to be placed in the queue to provide non-agenda public comments. This is the time when members of the public may provide comments to the Housing Commission Board about topics that are not on today's agenda, but involve a subject within the Housing Commission area's scope of responsibility. The Housing Commission can take action on non-agenda public comments. The number again is 833-610-2513. We received one written non-agenda public comment for today's meeting. Lafayette Brown wrote, background, in July 2017, the SDHC board was presented with a preliminary bond authorization for Savita 2 family apartments, bonds up to $62 million. After April 2020, construction of Stylus family and Sienna senior apartments could be observed from Friars Road. During a July 2021 apartment search, I learned that the average rent at Savita and surrounding properties was $2,312 for a 1-bedroom apartment. Issue: do single/divorced San Diegans on the SDHC affordable housing list have the same the affordable housing wait list have the same priority as family and senior listees to be offered available housing at Savita or other affordable housing properties? Note, the SDHC board meetings have been an excellent public policy educational forum. I will now ask our Vice President, that's the end of that comment. I'll now ask our Vice President of Communications, Scott Marshall, if we have any callers for non-agenda public comment.
The 90 seconds has lapsed and we do not have any non-agenda public comment callers.
Thank you. This concludes the non-agenda public comments. Now I'll ask if commissioners have any comments they'd like to make. Okay, I'm going to take that as a no. The next item on our agenda is the report from the president and CEO, Mr. Gentry.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And in the interest of time this morning, I'm only going to share 2 very brief updates with you. And then I'll be sending to you an email with updates on additional items that would be similar to the written message that I sent to you after the board's October meeting. And the first item this morning is to acknowledge Tracy Mcdermott. Today is Tracy's last day as the Housing Commission's Chief Financial Officer. And over the years, I point out that Tracy has filled key leadership roles at the Housing Commission, and Tracy has been a real asset to this agency. Under Tracy's leadership, the Housing Commission has continued to receive annual awards of excellence for our finances and also outstanding annual audits. And you'll hear of the most recent one of those in a few minutes. And I'd like to join me this morning in thanking Tracy for her service and wishing her all the best going forward. Tracy, thank you so much.
Thank you. Can't believe it's been almost 10 years.
It has been just about, and you've seen a lot of changes here, but we very much thank your service.
Thank you. I'll go over them at audit presentation. It's shocking how much we've grown.
It
Yeah.
really is.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody.
One of the things I'd like to point out is Tracy is one of the very few other native Southerners here. I never had to translate for her, so thank you. Tracy.
No. If you need a translation guide, I can hand it over.
Great. We'll do it.
Thank you.
The second update involves the current state's, California State's Home Key program. And the Housing Commission is in the process currently of identifying projects for which we may submit applications to the state for new home key funds. The state issued a notice of funding availability for the home key program in September, and more than $112 million from the home key program is set aside currently for the San Diego region. And I'd like to ask the Deputy CEO, Jeff Davis, to provide you with additional details about that process. Jeff, if you would, please.
Good morning, Commissioners. So the purpose of the second round of home key funds are to create and maintain housing for people experiencing homelessness or who are at risk of homelessness. The funds can be used for a variety of project types, including the acquisition of hotels, apartments, or homes to be converted into permanent or interim housing. Also, the conversion of non-residential properties into residential units or new construction. As Rick mentioned, we fall into the San Diego region geographic pool, which includes both the city and the county of San Diego. Like last round, we are working on a very tight timeline. The deadline for the application bonus award and geographic pool is January 31st, 2022. And funds are awarded on a strictly first come, first awarded basis. So applications that are submitted after that January 31st date will be part of a statewide competition. The capital award per door is $150,000 to $200,000 with a capital match of an additional $100,000 per door. There's also potential for an operating award match per unit. The sense of urgency is not limited to just the submission of applications. The expenditure deadline is 8 months from the date of award. So here's how the Housing Commission is preparing for this round. First of all, we're actively and regularly engaged with the mayor's office and county departments. You'll hear later this morning about a proposed contract for the Housing Commission to work with a real estate broker. The broker's work would include, but it would not be limited to, but it would include identifying properties that may be potential home key projects. In addition, importantly, the Housing Commission has been working to identify qualified developers for potential joint applications for home key projects. Our objective is to select as many qualified projects and developers as possible so that we can submit applications quickly for these limited funds. So utilizing the request for qualification or RFQ process, we've established a substantial list of pre-qualified developers. And developers with ready-to-go projects are going to begin submitting their proposals to the Housing Commission this afternoon. So through the competitive process, we're going to determine which qualified projects for joint applications for home key funds should move forward. And of course, any projects proposed for submittal to the state for home key funds would be brought back before this body for approval. And that concludes the home key update.
Thank you. Commissioners, do you have any questions or comments regarding the report from the CEO and the Deputy CEO?
Madam Chair, I have just one comment for the Chairman and CEO. One of the things we've been talking about a lot over the last few weeks is the problem with youth homelessness and the rise in youth homelessness. I know that the colleges are actually starting to get more requests for safe lots for college students to stay in. I would ask the staff to explore the opportunity that as we're looking at probably the next round of distributions from the state, that if we could try and look at making it, at creating a focus on acquiring properties that would be solely for youth. I know that the first two properties were for adult homeless families. I do think this is the right time, since the state is asking us to take the money and create solutions. If we could really focus on a solution for for homeless youth, I think that'd be a wonderful addition to the roadmap that we need to address homelessness in San Diego. So I know that Lisa will come back with a fantastic solution, at least two parts.
I'm sorry, I'm ill. It's going to sound like I'm interrupting everybody if I'm not on mute. So apologies, Mitch, but no pressure, Lisa. Quick question, Jeff, you had said a joint application, and again, I'm a little under the weather, so my brain's not 100% here, but if a developer or a provider comes to us and says, I have this property, we submit jointly with them, or could they just submit on their own?
It would need to be a joint application.
Okay. And that's the case for statewide? We're not special?
No, we're not special. Well, we are special, but not in this particular respect.
Of course. Gold star for you. Okay. If there's no other questions or comments, we'll go ahead and move on. Next on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the special meeting of October 15th, 2021. The phone line is now open for public comments about the minutes. Please call 833-610-2513 to be placed in the queue. There were no written public comments submitted regarding the minutes, but again, the number is 833-610-2513. Scott, go ahead and turn it over to you to let us know if you have any callers.
We have a minute and 15 seconds left and no callers yet.
Okay.
Time has ended and there are no callers regarding the minutes.
Thanks, Scott. This concludes the public comment period for the minutes. Do any commissioners wish to make any changes to the minutes, or do I have a motion?
So moved.
We have a motion by Commissioner Hubbard. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Vice Chair Klumpner to approve the minutes from special meeting of October 15th, 2021. I'll go through individually and we'll do the vote now. Vice Chair Klumpner,
Aye.
Commissioner Hubbard,
Aye.
Commissioner Mitchell,
Aye.
and I'll add my vote in favor. Carries unanimously. And now the consent agenda items. This morning, I'm proposing that the following items be placed on the consent agenda. Item 101, the board's 2022 meeting schedule. Item 102, the application for Cal Home funds. Item 104, the contract for the day center for adults experiencing homelessness. Item 106, the final bond authorization for Shoreline Apartments. And item 107, the final bond authorization for Tizon Apartments. I definitely didn't do that right. Sorry. The phone line is now open for public comments about items 101, 102, 104, 106, and 107. Please call 833-610-2513 to be placed in the queue. We had no written public comments regarding these items. But again, the number is 833-610-2513. Scott, let us know if we have any callers, please.
We have 1 minute and 10 seconds left and no callers yet. time has ended and there are no callers regarding the consent agenda items.
Okay, thank you. This concludes the public comment periods for items 101, 102, 104, 106, and 107. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Madam Chair, I just had before you, real quick, just a comment before you take the vote on this.
Yeah.
Agenda. On the, one of the concerns that continues to occur involves, the corridor that leads from Father Joe's Villages to Petco, and the need to try and address what happens every day during the course of the day, and make it a little more organized and clean it up a bit. And I would just ask that in the contract, do we put any parameters around the operation itself and more of an organizational flow, so that it is not the look that at times you drive by that it really is. And I know they're dealing with a difficult population, but I do believe that more could be done. And are there any aspects in the contract that require that?
So yes, Commissioner, there are aspects in the contract related to cleanliness, obviously, of the site and the areas right in front of the site. Honestly, they can clean in the morning and then have to clean again just a few hours later. So that is one of the challenges in that area, as I know you know well. We did, however, work with the city to increase. This has been a very low budgeted program for many years. It's been increased by 300,000 annually to 800,000. That's going to give Father Joe's some bandwidth there for some of those kinds of things that really need multiple times a day, some review. Obviously, it also entails working with environmental services as well as part of those challenges. And in addition, the city identified $150,000 for the commission to work with to do some site repairs and maintenance as well. That were some deferred maintenance that needed to be done.
Okay, that's good. I hopefully you guys have a little more luck with the enforcement of that clause, and the extra money will help. I do think that it presents the wrong message for people driving down that corridor, and creates a narrative around people struggling with homelessness that, again, can be fixed by just better enforcement, and Father Joe's putting more effort into it. So that's it, Madam Chair.
Thank you. We still are waiting on a motion on the consent agenda.
So moved.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Great. Motion by Commissioner Mitchell, second by Vice Chair Klempner. We'll go ahead and vote. Vice Chair Klempner.
Aye.
Commissioner Hubbard.
Aye.
Commissioner Mitchell.
Aye.
I'll add my vote in favor. That motion carries unanimously. We're going to go ahead and proceed with our action items on our agenda today. The PowerPoint presentations were emailed to commissioners on Wednesday, November 10th, and are posted on the commission's website. Before we begin, I have a couple updates for the public regarding today's items. These are due to time constraints to accommodate some unforeseen schedule conflicts for commissioners later this morning. So the presentation of item 105, the annual comprehensive financial report and single audit reports, will be taken out of order and will be heard at the end of today's meeting. In addition, item 110, the informational workshop about land use programs and the closed session on today's agenda will be postponed to a future meeting. Our first item is item 100, the contracts with mental health systems to operate the transitional storage centers. The phone line is now open for public comments about item 100. You can call 833-610-2513 to be placed in the queue. We had no written public comments submitted regarding this item. However, the number to call is 833-610-2513. We'll take any public comments after the staff presentation, and we'll be hearing from Executive Vice President of Strategic Initiatives, Lisa Jones. Lisa, whenever you're ready.
Morning, Commissioners. With me today is Casey Snell, Director of Housing First Administration, and we're here today to request recommendation to approve the execution of competitively awarded contracts with mental health systems for initial 6-month agreement with 2 one-year options to renew for continued operation of the City of San Diego's transitional storage centers, known as Storage Connect Center 1 and Storage Connect Center 2. Next slide. The Storage Connect Center 1 operations agreement was approved by City Council on March 20th, 2018, and the program opened on June 13th, 2018 at 116 South 20th Street in City Council District 8. The city leases the facility from a private owner and subleases the site to the operator. On November 18th, 2019, with City Council approval, a second facility, the Storage Connect Center 2, opened at 5453 Leah Street in City Council District 9 on a site that is owned by the city. The centers provide secure, protected space for individuals experiencing homelessness in the city to store their personal belongings on an ongoing basis and help keep their belongings off city streets, sidewalks, and storefronts. The centers provide a safe place for individuals experiencing homelessness to keep their belongings as they attend to their personal needs, which may include working or housing options, looking for work, attending classes, meeting with service providers, seeking medical care, or other activities such as accessing cleaning or washing facilities. These centers augment existing storage center services that have been operated by Think Dignity since 2011. Think Dignity provides 400 storage units for persons experiencing homelessness. The Think Dignity site is on a parking lot parcel owned by the Housing Commission, which is leased to Think Dignity on an annual basis for $1 per month. Next slide. Storage Connect Center 1 is funded to provide 500 storage bins available for persons experiencing homelessness. The report before you provides utilization data for both centers as of mid-October. As of November 8th, 2021, Storage Connect Center 1 has 457 bins occupied out of the 500 available for a 91% utilization rate. The Storage Connect Center 2 opened in 2019, and the city transitioned the contract administration of this center to the Housing Commission on July 1st, 2020. Storage Connect Center 2 currently has 257 storage bins on site and has the capacity to support up to 500 bins. As of November 8th, 2021, Storage Connect Center 2 has 215 bins occupied out of the 257 on site for an 84% utilization rate. Due to the increasing reutilization rates, 50 additional bins will be added on site this month. The Storage Connect Center 1 is open Monday through Friday from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. and Saturday and Sunday from 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. Storage Connect Center 2 is open Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. and Saturday and Sunday from 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. Next slide. Both centers 1 and 2 operate in a similar manner, as the current operator of each storage center, Mental Health Systems, or MHS, has demonstrated the capacity to administer the program effectively. MHS is a provider with extensive experience working with people experiencing homelessness. Next slide. Beginning in March 2020, Centers 1 and 2 acted quickly to modify their methods of operation to mitigate the spread of COVID-19. These methods included social distancing measures, such as limiting the number of clients in the client waiting area, placing markers on the ground to inform clients where to stand, and allowing clients to provide verbal consent while filling out paperwork to reduce close contact with staff. Both centers enhanced their cleaning and sanitation practices and administered the COVID-19 health screening questionnaire with each client and staff member entering the facility. In addition to the mitigation efforts for COVID-19, both centers work with clients to educate and address the spread of other communicable diseases. These efforts include providing information to clients verbally at every storage check-in, connecting clients to healthcare resources, and posting flyers on site that provide information about symptoms, vaccination, prevention, and control for other infectious disease. Next slide.
To proactively address potential community concerns, several good neighbor practices and general standards were built into the operating contract requirements. MH staff work in various capacities to best serve clients, maintain a clean and safe environment, and conduct proactive outreach in the surrounding communities. MHS provides a dedicated operator contact and coordinates with other city departments like the San Diego Police Department Homeless Outreach Team and the City of San Diego Environmental Services Department to support a safe and clean environment for storage center programs. Next slide, please. Staff from the centers and the city's bridge shelters regularly coordinate outreach and engagement activities in the areas surrounding the centers to engage individuals experiencing homelessness and offer connections to community resources, including storage and shelter. Both centers have security measures in place, and the San Diego Police Department coordinates law enforcement and security presence with the center's security agencies regularly. A monthly neighborhood advisory meeting is held virtually to provide community members with an opportunity to share concerns and ideas about the two sites. These meetings also allow the project's partners to share information and provide updates to the community, such as notifying the community when contract terms are renewed or contract-related action items are brought to the Housing Commission Board or the Housing Authority for consideration. Monthly meetings include ongoing attendance by MHS staff, Housing Commission staff, and city representatives from the San Diego Police Department, Environmental Services, and the Mayor's Office. In addition, the Housing Commission hosts a dedicated phone line available to community members to raise questions or concerns if issues have not been addressed in a timely manner by the operator of the program. Since the Center 1 opened in June 2018, the phone line has received 10 calls. The majority of the calls are not related to the storage center specifically, but are related to other issues that may be connected to unsheltered homelessness in the community. Next slide. The Housing Commission issued a request for proposal, or RFP, for the operation of the 2 storage centers on July 15th, 2021. The RFP was posted and made available for download on the Planet Bids website through the Housing Commission and city portals. The RFP closed on August 12th, and 1 proposal was received for Center 1 and 1 proposal was received for Center 2, both from MHS. The RFP selection committee reviewed and evaluated the submission for each site and also held an interview with the respondent on September 14th. After thorough evaluation and scoring, the respondent was deemed appropriately qualified to provide the requested services and met all thresholds required in the RFP. The evaluation committee recommended that MHS continue as the operator for both centers. Next slide, please. The fiscal year 22 budget amounts reflected in this slide are based on a 6-month contract term. The cost to operate the Storage Connect Center 1 is $624,941, and the cost to operate the Storage Connect Center 2 is $360,332 for a total operating cost of $985,303 for the duration of fiscal year 22. Annual costs are $1,249,882 for Connect Center 1 and $720,664 for Storage Connect Center 2. Future funding for option years is contingent of the city allocating funding for this purpose. Next slide, please. Staff requests that the Housing Commission Board recommend that the Housing Authority of the City of San Diego take the actions detailed in the staff report and on this slide and the following slide. Next slide, please. Next slide. That concludes our presentation. We're available to answer any questions.
We also have staff from MHS, leadership staff and program staff from MHS here as well to answer any questions.
Great, thank you. Scott, do we have any callers at this time?
We do not have any callers on this item.
Okay. That concludes public comment for item 100. Commissioners, do you have any questions or comments? No. Okay. I know that we have heard these items when they were first approved, and of course these renewals, so not a new topic for anybody. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Hubbard, seconded by Commissioner Mitchell. We'll go ahead and vote. Vice Chair Klempner.
Aye.
Commissioner Hubbard.
Aye.
And Commissioner Mitchell.
Aye.
I'll add my vote in favor. Motion carries unanimously. Next item is 103, an agreement with Marcus and Millitop to provide on-call real estate broker services to the San Diego Housing Commission. The phone line is now open for public comments regarding item 103. Please call 833-610-2513 to be placed in the queue. There were no written public comments submitted, but again, the number is 833-610-2513. We will take public comments after the staff presentation. Executive Vice President of Real Estate, Emily Jacobs, will be presenting. Emily, whenever you're ready.
Thank you. Good morning, commissioners. Next slide, please. As you are aware, our current strategic plan includes a priority to increase and preserve housing solutions. One of the ways the Housing Commission creates and preserves affordable housing is by acquiring properties. Since 2008, the number of affordable rental housing units the Housing Commission owns and manages has increased 89% to 4,120 units today. These include housing units owned or managed by the Housing Commission's nonprofit affiliate, Housing Development Partners, and public housing units. The Housing Commission acquires properties in accordance with its policy for the acquisition and/or purchase of real estate. This policy has been approved by the Board of Commissioners and the Housing Authority, with the most recent update adopted in 2016. Next slide. In April of this year, the Housing Commission issued a request for qualifications, or RFQ, to identify licensed real estate agents who could provide broker services to the Housing Commission on an on-call as-needed basis. The RFQ requirements are detailed in the staff report for this item. They include that each selected broker must execute, file, and submit a statement of economic interest, known as a Form 700, before the brokerage agreement is executed. This form must be filed with the city clerk within 30 days of executing the broker agreement and on April 1st of each year. In addition, selected brokers are required to disclose financial and ownership interests that might create a conflict of interest on 3 separate occasions: before the execution of any letter of intent, immediately before the execution of any purchase and sale agreement, and immediately before the close of escrow to purchase any specific real estate. Also, the broker is required to disclose in writing any compensation they receive as a result of the property acquisition. Next slide. When the RFQ closed in May, we received 5 responses. The evaluation committee scored and ranked the responses and identified the top 3 respondents. They were invited for interview and 2 accepted. The Housing Commission started negotiations with Marcus & Millitop and Colliers International. During that negotiation, Colliers withdrew from consideration, citing capacity concerns. Next slide. Marcus & Millitop demonstrated excellent qualifications to provide on-call broker services for the Housing Commission. This includes experience participating in complicated hotel and apartment acquisitions for other governmental entities. Most recently, they assisted the Housing Authority of the City of Los Angeles. It is important to note that approving an agreement today with Marcus & Millitop does not authorize the Housing Commission to expend any funds or to advance any real estate transactions. The proposed agreement does not allow the payment of any commission to Marcus & Millitop at this time. Separate acquisition actions for specific properties will need to be approved by this board, subject to the review by the Housing Authority before any commissions can be paid. Also, the amount of commission would also be subject to future staff reports presented to this board. Those action items would be subject to the Housing Authority review as well. The proposed agreement with Marcus & Millitop includes a compensation schedule that specifies the maximum commission allowed. The actual commission could be less, depending on the negotiations of each specific purchase. The fee structure in the proposed contract is at or below the fees seen in the market, based on the Housing Commission's sampling of other similar brokerage firms. The Housing Commission also anticipates issuing another RFQ to enable us to work with more than one broker. Any agreement resulting from that procurement process will also be presented to this board for consideration. Next slide. Staff recommends that the Housing Commission Board take the actions detailed in the staff report as shown on this slide. Next slide. That concludes my presentation. General Counsel Chuck Christensen, as well as representatives from Marcus & Millitop and myself, are available for any questions you may have.
Thank you. Scott, do we have any public comments?
There are no callers on this item.
Okay. Commissioners, questions or comments?
Madam Chair, I just have a question. I appreciate the direction that this is headed and the language that is listed. I think my question is, and maybe I'm missing this. We had talked originally about changing the process for the acquisition of properties in order to deal with some of the concerns around appraisals at all. So I guess I'm wondering, shouldn't this be 2 separate actions? Shouldn't the one action with all the requirements of filing Form 700, you can't make a commission, you must pay back and all those things. My question is why wouldn't we make that a separate motion so that it is permanent and in the record as far as our structure, and then have a separate motion to award this next process to the firm chosen?
I think that's a fair point. Go ahead, Emily, sorry.
Oh, no worries. So this item is being brought forth in the manner that is right now in the interest of time. I can defer to General Counsel with respect to process with regard to the acquisition policy. That does take a more lengthier process. It includes the Housing Authority to update that policy. But again, I'll defer to Chuck Christensen as to process.
So yeah, Commissioner, thank you for the question. The absolutely can go forward to take an action forward to make these permanent changes. As you've indicated, these were as a result of a prior transaction where there was some learning done, and we've taken actions that we think fix all those issues. For Brown Act purposes, I would suggest that we bring this back at the next meeting and have you vote on a permanent policy, because policies are sometimes required to be approved by the Housing Authority, and they have not received advance notice, the 7-day advance notice that would take a separate action. So it's more a procedural issue than anything else. I think it's a good idea, but I would, from a Brown Act standpoint, I'd suggest you vote on this today, but we will absolutely bring it back as quickly as possible to get an approval.
Okay, that's fair. I appreciate that, Chuck. I think, again, I appreciate the direction. I appreciate the detail and everything that's listed. I just think that we should, these should have been two separate motions, but we can bring it back and make it permanent, because this isn't the way it reads today. Is this is attached to this process and this selection. What and the intent we want though is that this should be the new structure for all acquisitions going forward. So I'm fine with the motion today, Madam Chair, as on the commitment that this come back at the next meeting to make this a permanent part of our operational structure.
Will do.
Vice Chair Klempner.
Yeah, I mean, I would just echo that I appreciate Commissioner Mitchell's point there. This should be a permanent policy, but on the issue of what we're doing today, I very much appreciate staff taking those lessons from the last transaction and working with us, and also very much appreciate Marcus and Millitop's commitment to the terms there, specifically the Form 700. I know some of these things have not been standard in the past, and I think we, along with other public agencies, are learning some very difficult and concerning lessons about what appear to be some unfortunate practices that are a little more widespread in the industry than I think a lot of us were aware of. And I'm glad that we have somebody who responded to this, that was willing to kind of step up and meet the increased standards that come with doing business with the public, because we do need these services and we do need them in a timely manner. But our standards as representatives of the public, just have to be different than some other private sector players that can deal with certain things that we just can't. And so I just want to thank everybody involved, and fingers crossed that going forward, whatever transactions result from this are more positive experiences than our recent experience. So thank you.
Okay.
Madam Chair, if I just one comment, one other issue that's been included within this contract as a process is we're now recommending a peer review of any appraisal that's done in connection with the purchase of any property, so that we have two sets of eyes looking at that in addition to the broker.
Yeah, that is an excellent add, and that's, again, like you said, just even based on that component there, I just think, Chuck, that making sure that this is a permanent part of our structure and rules, not just associated with this contract award is
understood. Absolutely understood. We'll do that.
Thank you. Yeah, I don't have any additional feedback, but to say that I think this is all very positive. I'm glad to see the additional appraisal oversight. I think just making sure that we are in fact getting the best deal is wonderful. I am excited to welcome Marcus and Millitop into the Housing Commission family. I am sure we have a wild ride ahead. So is there a motion?
I will make the motion to approve as presented, with the caveat that at the next meeting, this be brought back for approval as part of the permanent structure.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
Okay, thank you. Motion by Commissioner Mitchell, second by Vice Chair Klumpner. We'll go ahead and vote. Vice Chair Klumpner,
Aye.
Commissioner Hubbard,
Aye.
Commissioner Mitchell.
Aye.
I'll add my vote in favor. Motion passes unanimously. Our next item is, excuse me. Next item is 108, City of San Diego Eviction Prevention Program. The phone line is now open for public comments about item 108. Please call 833-610-2513 to be placed in the queue. We did not receive any written public comments. Again, the number is 833-610-2513. We will take any public comments after the staff presentation. And this morning we'll be hearing from the Senior Vice President of Compliance and Equity Assurance, Deborah Fischel-Falk. Deborah, whenever you're ready.
Madam Chair, before that report is given, I would like to request that in the motion to approve this matter, that we clarify one item, and that is that we would ask number 5, recommendation 5 indicates that any actions necessary to implement the approvals are authorized to be done. But specifically, I'd like to draw attention to and ask that the approval of this recommendation number 2 include a direction to staff to prepare a resolution under the provisions of San Diego Municipal Code section 980301E2A to forward item 108, specifically recommendation 2, which is the contract with legal aid, to the Housing Authority for action. This is being done to ensure that the MOU that is being heard today and will be heard by the Housing Authority will be heard at the same time as the contract. That because in the event the Housing Authority changes the MOU in any way, we would want to change the contract approval at that time as well. So we would ask that you incorporate that direction to prepare a resolution which authorizes this matter, specifically item 2, the contract for legal aid, to be reviewed and approved by the Housing Authority at the time it hears the MOU. Thank you.
Thank you, Chuck. And do we need to do anything special, or can we just say that that will be incorporated into what we're going to be considering with our recommendations? Okay.
You can certainly do that, yes.
Okay, great. So commissioners, you heard. Now we'll turn it over to Deborah Fischel-Falk.
Thank you. Good morning, Chair Benvenuto, Commissioners, Mr. Gentry, and Mr. Christensen. I'm Deborah Fischel-Falk, Senior Vice President of Compliance and Equity Assurance. With me are Molly Chase, Vice President of Policy, and George Williams, Director of Compliance and Equity Assurance. This morning, we are requesting approval for the Housing Commission to administer and oversee the City of San Diego's eviction prevention program, which would be operated by Legal Aid Society of San Diego. Now, Molly will provide you with a brief summary of the need for this program and the general elements of the program. Next slide, please.
Good morning, Commissioners. In 2020, eviction moratoria were rapidly implemented at multiple levels of government in response to the state of emergency due to the COVID-19 pandemic. California's statewide moratorium superseded similar eviction bans that local jurisdictions adopted. The state moratorium expired on September 30th, 2021. However, State Assembly Bill AB 832 included eviction prevention provisions beginning on October 1st, 2021 that are currently in effect. A list of many of the eviction protections from AB 832 is available on the Housing Commission's website at www.sdhc.org/eviction ban. With the expiration of the state eviction moratorium, a need exists to provide an eviction prevention program in the City of San Diego. This program would function as a centralized resource for renters with low income who face eviction and would help address a potential increase in evictions and/or confusion about eviction protections due to the expiration of the state moratorium. Next slide. One of the key components of the program is education and awareness. This includes providing training and technical assistance related to tenants' rights and eviction protections. Services would include public workshops, training, published guides, a program hotline, and a program webpage. In addition, to raise public awareness, the program would include a multilingual media campaign and community events, as we've seen with successful HSAP outreach. Next slide, please. Another essential component of the program would be the legal assistance. This would include full legal representation for eligible tenants with low income who reside in the city of San Diego and have received an unlawful detainer notice and experienced a financial hardship due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The service provider for this program would represent any eligible household through the pre-eviction and eviction process in settlement negotiations and at trial, if necessary. In addition, limited legal services will also be made available through clinics, hotlines, and appointments. These types of services include help completing COVID-19 declarations, formal responses to eviction notices, formal responses to unlawful detainers, and requests for reasonable accommodations. Next slide. Now, George will provide details about the procurement process, the selected provider, and terms of the proposed agreement. Thank you.
Good morning, commissioners. On September 20, 2021, the Housing Commission issued a request for qualifications, or RFQ. The solicitation was posted and made available to download on both the Housing Commission's and City of San Diego's Planet Bids portals. The RFQ closed on October 4, 2021. One proposal was submitted. An evaluation committee evaluated and scored the proposal, and Legal Aid Society of San Diego received an outstanding overall rating. The evaluation committee subsequently conducted negotiations and discussions with Legal Aid Society regarding its approach to the provision of services. Legal Aid Society was determined to be highly qualified and capable of performing the services. Next slide, please. Legal Aid Society is the largest poverty law firm serving San Diego County. For the past 60 years, they have been providing housing services to tenants with low income throughout San Diego County, including the city of San Diego. They have a comprehensive and multifaceted approach to eviction prevention services that includes providing direct legal services, ranging from counsel and advice to full scope representation, offering holistic, including the Sargent Shriver Civil Counsel Act, the Equal Access Fund Homelessness Prevention Formula Grant, and Competitive Grant, and the San Diego County Eviction Prevention Program. They have extensive experience helping tenants who have received eviction notices and unlawful detainers, who experience conflicts with their landlords, who encounter habitability issues with their residents, or who have questions about their rental agreements and leases. They are a member of the San Diego Eviction Defense Collaborative. They also partner with fellow collaborative members, City Heights Community Development Corporation and ACCE Institute, to provide education and public awareness services to reach the greatest number of tenants, landlords, and service providers in the local community to ensure the program's success. Legal Aid Society also intends to finalize a subcontract with the University of San Diego Law School legal clinics to help with additional referrals if necessary. All services for the proposed eviction prevention program will be provided to all eligible households regardless of immigration status. Next slide, please. On October 5th, the City Council and the Housing Authority authorized the reallocation of $5 million to fund the proposed eviction prevention program. These funds are from CARES Act Community Block Grant funds that were awarded to the City of San Diego. The initial agreement with Legal Aid is for the period of December 1st, 2021 through June 30th, 2022, in an amount not to exceed $1,842,105. The agreement includes a one-year renewal option for July 1st, 2022 through June 30th, 2023 in an amount not to exceed $3,157,895. Preliminary goals have been established for the initial 7-month period that include conducting a minimum of 3 education and outreach events per month and at least 1 large citywide media outreach effort, and taking all necessary staffing measures to ensure all eligible households requesting assistance are responded to and assisted promptly. Legal Aid Society will provide monthly reports that track numerous programs, outcomes, and all financial reporting required by community development block grant regulations. Next slide, please. Staff is requesting that the Housing Commission Board recommend that the Housing Authority and City Council take the actions detailed in the staff report and shown on the next 3 slides. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. That concludes our presentation. Molly, Deborah, and I are available to answer your questions. Legal Aid Society of San Diego is also available.
Thank you very much. Do we have any callers, Scott?
We do not have any callers on this item.
Okay, well, that concludes the public comment for period. That concludes the public comment period for item 108. Commissioners, do you have any questions or comments?
I have a question, Madam Chair, which is just overall, we've talked about the concern about evictions, cost of living rising in San Diego and California in general, eviction moratorium going away. I don't recall seeing a number, but can anyone frame, how many evictions are actually happening right now? Did we see have we seen an increase since the moratorium? Well, the state had its own moratorium that lasted, but beyond the federal moratorium. Can staff, can they frame that as how big the problem is? I think it's important that we clarify for the public that, this action is being taken because there is a growing problem, but define the problem.
I would ask Legal Aid Society of San Diego to respond to that question.
Sure, Deborah. Thank you. Thank you all. My name is Gregory Knoll, K-N-O-L-L. I'm the longtime CEO and Chief Counsel of the Legal Aid Society of San Diego. And it's a little hard to tell, Mitch, right now because 60-day notices couldn't go out until just 30 days ago. So we're waiting for that tsunami of when those notices all come to fruition and then the summons and complaints starts rolling out. But I will tell you that even during the time when there were all those moratoriums, from Chula Vista to the city of San Diego, to the county, to the feds, to the state, we still ended up with about 3,200 cases with landlords trying, who didn't understand the process, just like tenants didn't. And they came to us and we kind of were able to do some community education of both landlords and tenants to smooth those over and to stop those. But we're not really sure what's going to happen in the next 30 days. But we're trying to get ready for it.
Additionally, Commissioner, I will add really briefly, this is Molly Chase, Vice President of Policy. We are hearing already through the Housing Stability Assistance Program concern and confusion about the change in eviction protections, which I think is why it's so important we have this partnership coming online with Legal Aid, because AB 832, as I mentioned in my presentation, uniquely is tying the rental assistance program that we're running with eviction preventions, because no one can be evicted for non-payment of rent unless they have an application that has been denied. So there is a kind of more of a tie than we've previously had with any other program.
Okay, I appreciate that input. Obviously, we're we're trying to prepare appropriately to offer more advice, counsel, and guidance. So that makes sense. Okay.
Rick?
If I could add 3 brief comments as well. I think this is untested new territory for us, but I think it reflects the expanded mission that this board adopted in the strategic plan from last summer. And although it's an expanded mission for expansion of our mission, it fits in with trying to serve a broader population. I'll also point out that this also reflects the excellent leadership and function of Legal Aid Society over the years, and also the excellent relationship between the Housing Commission and Legal Aid over the years, which has not always been the case in all cities. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Any other commissioner questions or comments? I'll just say that I appreciate, there are plenty of things that come out of the state that make me scratch my head, but I appreciate the direction that they took on this policy and the proactive way that the commission staff have responded. The future of rental stability is such an unknown, especially as we gear up for possibly another tough winter time that could put a lot of folks in a really tough position about making decisions about work and, you know, a continuing deficit of things like childcare to support the workforce coming back in a solid way. That I worry that the long-term effects on those folks that are just on the cusp will be long lasting. So one quick question would be, we have an income cutoff, right? Income level, or because I recognize it's very targeted at low income. What's the definition of that? Is that 60% AMI?
It's up to 80% AMI.
Okay, thank you. That's great. If we find capacity, I would love to see that go up even further. I think that the folks who are really crunched, forgive that statement. I think that folks who are finding themselves with enough of an income to not qualify for services, but are crunched by the lack of supports, maybe another rung where we're going to just see that kind of crunch down. So not asking for that now, but in the future, I'd be curious if we could revisit that as these conversations go on. I know that Legal Aid has plenty on its plate,
but you're absolutely right, and we would agree with your comments, and I think we'd like to work with this partnership and continue it to look at folks that are more moderate, that sometimes get lost in the shuffle of all the work that has to be done for the poor.
That was much more eloquently put. Thank you. I think that concludes our questions and comments from the commissioners. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Mitchell.
Second.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Hubbard. She beat you. Okay, we'll go ahead and vote. Vice Chair Klempner.
Aye.
Commissioner Hubbard.
Aye.
And Commissioner Mitchell.
Aye.
I'll add my vote in favor. That motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. This is a really exciting item. Item 109 is the additional funding for the COVID-19 Housing Stability Assistance Program. The phone line is now open for comments. You can call 833-610-2513 to be placed in the queue. There are no written public comments that have been submitted. Again, the number to call is 833-610-2513. We'll take those comments after the staff presentation, and we'll be hearing from Executive Vice President of Rental Assistance, Azucena Valladolid. Azucena, whenever you're ready.
Good morning. Good morning, Chair Benvenuto and Commissioners. I'm Azucena Valladolid, Executive Vice President of Rental Assistance. This morning, I am presenting or requesting to authorize the Housing Commission to expend additional funding for the COVID-19 Housing Stability Assistance Program to help families pay the rent and utilities. Next slide, please. The San Diego Housing Commission operates the program, which we launched in March of 2021. The program helps pay rent and utilities for qualifying households with low income who have also experienced a financial hardship due to or during the COVID-19 pandemic. The application remains open. Next slide, please. As of November 10th, the Housing Commission has made payments totaling more than $117.7 million through the program to help more than 13,100 City of San Diego households with low income. All of the funds available for this program are obligated. The total obligations exceed the funding, so the program is oversubscribed. Including the funds proposed for action before you today, the program has about $70.5 million available to provide additional assistance payments to qualifying households. However, the program would need more than $87 million to assist the current applicants, including those who have preliminary approval, subject to the review and confirmation of their documentation. Next slide, please. The need in San Diego remains significant. The Housing Commission continues to receive new applications for help from the program every single day. More than 32,000 applications have been submitted and more than 29,800 additional applications have been started and are pending completion. More than 75% of the submitted applications are from households that report income at or below 30% of San Diego's area median income. Next slide, please. The Housing Commission requested and was approved to receive additional funding from the state to meet the needs and requests of existing applicants. The state has allocated an additional $27 million to the City of San Diego to be administered by the Housing Commission through the Housing Stability Assistance Program. If the staff recommendations before the board today are approved, these funds from the state would support the continuation of the COVID-19 Housing Stability Assistance Program. Next slide, please. In addition, the Housing Commission continues to work with Mayor Tagler's office on efforts to obtain additional funding. On October 29th, we formally submitted a request to the U.S. Department of Treasury for more funding to support this program. The state has also asked the Federal Treasury Department for additional funding. Lourdes Castro Ramirez, the Secretary of State's Business, Consumer Services and Housing Agency, specifically cited the success of San Diego's program in her October 7th letter to the Treasury Department. Under current funding regulations, the Housing Commission cannot close the application portal or decline applicants due to a lack of funding unless or until the state has confirmed there are no additional funds for reallocation to the Housing Commission. Also, applying for help from the COVID-19 Housing Stability Assistance Program is an important step renters can continue to take to benefit from the eviction protections discussed in the previous presentation about the eviction prevention program. Next slide, please. Today, staff is requesting that the Housing Commission Board recommend that the Housing Authority take the actions detailed in the staff report and shown on the next two slides and to authorize an additional $27 million for this program. Next slide, please. Next slide. That concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Susanna. Do we have any public comments?
There are no callers on this item.
Wow, okay. That concludes public comment period for item 109. Commissioners, have any questions or comments? Someone's getting it. Okay.
Madam Chair, I think that's it.
Sorry?
I was teasing you.
I will remind you, sir, that you were late today. I have been waiting for a smart comment from you so that
I tried to go cold turkey today. I'm like, I'm going to give it, but then I just, in the end, I couldn't. Sorry.
Where's your willpower, man? Okay. Are there any questions or comments? Rick?
I'd just like to throw up some kudos to Susanna Valladolid and her people who have done such a wonderful job in this program. I will remind the board that we have expended 100% of the monies, whereas the national average is still, what, less than 20% across the country. And Zaina's done this just in addition to running the voucher program. So I think by adding just under 100 volunteers, this has been a very successful program. We fully expect to get additional funding from Washington, D.C. because of Lourdes Castro Ramirez's request, the governor's request, and we'll be able to expend every dollar that comes out. Now, Zana's not done this alone. She had her staff working with her closely, so is Molly, so Jeff, so is everyone else here. But Zana had a particularly key role in this, and I just wanted to draw that to your attention because she operates the programs here that tend to only get attention when something doesn't happen. So in this case, the fact that nothing happened, it's a good thing. This is Zana, thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you, Rick, for those comments. I think that in this industry, often doing the work well, you're rewarded with more work, and or just not commented on at all. So I appreciate that a lot of this stuff just goes very underappreciated, I think, in the general public, but what the team's been able to do is really exemplary. Commissioners, before we move on to a motion, any comments?
I'll just reiterate what I've said before. Kudos, job well done.
Excellent. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second and ditto.
Motion by Commissioner Mitchell, second by Commissioner Hubbard. She beat you again. You come on mute and like stall. You're on the hustle there, Commissioner Hubbard. Okay, we'll go ahead and vote. Vice Chair Klumpner.
Aye.
Commissioner Hubbard.
Aye.
Commissioner Mitchell.
Aye.
I'll add my vote in favor. Motion carries. Item 110, as noted earlier, item 110, an informational workshop about city land use programs is postponed to a future meeting. Our final item today is item 105, the fiscal year 2021 annual comprehensive financial report, and single audit reports. The phone line is now open for public comments about item 105. Please call 833-610-2513 to be placed in the queue. We had no written public comments submitted regarding this item, but again, the number to call is 833-610-2513. We'll take public comments after the staff presentation, and we'll be hearing from Senior Vice President and Chief Financial Officer, Tracy Mcdermott. Tracy, whenever you're ready.
Great. Let's start on slide 2, please. Good morning, Chair Benvenuto, Vice Chair Klumpner, and Commissioners. I'm Tracy Mcdermott, Chief Financial Officer of the San Diego Housing Commission. I have with me our Director of Audit, Marie Lawless. We're here today to present the results of our fiscal year 2021 annual financial audit. Let's go to slide 3. Take a look at our timeline. And before I begin, I really want to take this time to thank the entire finance team for this extraordinary work during the year to prepare this annual report. As a Housing Commission grows, so do our audit requirements. As you can see, we're an audit year round. And also this year, we had 5 additional programmatic audits due to the amount of COVID funds we received. If you want to see more information on that, we received another $105 million. We have details on note 16 on page 84. Thank you, Team Finance. It takes a village to get this done. I really appreciate it. The Housing Commission appreciates it, and our audit firm appreciates it. So let's go to slide 4. The annual report was presented to the Audit Committee on November 3rd. The Audit Committee approved the annual report and our single expenditure financial federal audit, and recommended the Housing Commission Board approve these reports as well. And I just want to reiterate some of Cone-Resnick's comments to the Audit Committee meeting. We received an unmodified audit opinion, which is a good thing. There was no comments or findings on our internal controls or business processes, and there was no past audit adjustments. So basically, we had a very clean audit, and we can go into some of the summary results on slide 5. So in fiscal year 2021, we had more than $467 million in revenue. That is a 50% increase over last year. And we had approximately $367 million in expenses. The Housing Commission's efforts to address homelessness in San Diego was about $190 million in 2021, which also included the acquisition of our 2 hotels. And the Housing Commission funded close to $29 million in multifamily developments and single family loans. And also to address the impact of COVID-19, we administer the City of San Diego's Emergency Rental Assistance Program, also known as ERAP. And as you heard earlier in our meeting today, the Housing Stability Assistance Program. For these COVID-19 programs through June 30th, 2021, we received a combined of 57 million and expended close to 45 million. And to date, as you heard earlier, we've issued close to 118 million in housing assistance and related payments. Now let's go to slide 6 and look at our revenues by funding type. As you can see, we have federal, local, and state. We continue to receive a significant portion of our revenue from federal sources, more than 387 million, 83% in 2021. This is actually more revenue than we received in total last year. Our federal funding exceeded our total revenues in 2020. And this includes funds from both HUD and the US Treasury. And now I'm going to hand this over to Marie to discuss year-over-year comparisons, starting on slide 7, please.
Great, thank you, Tracy. Revenues year over year for 2021 compared to 2020. You can see that the majority of our revenue is from grant revenue, which includes housing assistance grants. These are their orange and blue and dark blue colored blocks on the bar graphs. It accounted for more than 86% of the total revenue earned. The increase in grant revenue of $155.4 million, or 50% from prior year, is primarily due to increased homelessness activities and the coronavirus relief funds received primarily for the City of San Diego's COVID-19 programs. Next slide, please. This slide is expenses year over year, 2021 compared to 2020. You can see that the housing assistance payments, the dark blue colored blocks in the bar graphs, continue to be the majority of the Housing Commission's expenses, about 65%, and increased almost $62 million due to the COVID-19 relief programs and additional vouchers that we received in fiscal year 21. Additionally, operating expenses increased almost $16 million, primarily related to personnel expenses, administrative expenses to run the COVID-19 relief programs, and costs incurred related to personal protection equipment and increased sanitation due to COVID-19. Next slide, please. This is merely a recap of the last 2 slides that we discussed. Next slide, please. This bar graph basically depicts our assets and our liabilities and net position, which is also known as our balance sheet for fiscal years 2021 and 2020. You can see that the general composition of our balance sheet didn't change year over year. However, we have now over $1 billion in assets. The top section is our assets, and the increase was over $163 million, which is mainly due to the acquisition of 3 properties, Hillcrest Inn, Kearney Vista, and Valley Vista. Additionally, an increase in loans made and the funding we received from the COVID-19 relief programs increased our assets as well. Next, the bottom section is our liabilities and net position. Net position is the agency's accumulated net worth since inception. This is the net value of all of the agency's assets if they were liquidated and outstanding debts and obligations were paid. Net position increased more than $133 million due to the hotel acquisitions and the increase in loans issued. This was also offset by the debt incurred to purchase the properties. Next slide, please. This is a recap of the changes in the balance sheet previously discussed, and now I will return it back to Tracy.
Thank you, Marie. Let's start on slide 12, please. I want to go into a little more detail about the statement of net position and their definitions as defined by the Government Accounting Standards Board, which is accounting ease. So first we have net investment in capital assets, brick and mortar. Our properties, cost at acquisition plus building improvements, less depreciation or any loans outstanding on the assets. The 3 hotels we acquired this year would be a good example of that. Then we have our restricted net position, and that's primarily made up of loans receivable that are federally backed. Federally backed would be like something that's backed by a home loan, for example. And then by default, anything else left in our net position has to be classified as unrestricted net position. And that classification is not indicative that these funds are available for discretionary use. It's just the default category. So let's go to the next slide, 13, please. So this breaks our unrestricted net position by categories. As you can see, about $255 million is existing affordable housing loans. $133 million is committed by board resolutions and the 2022 budget obligations. And then we have $13 million set aside as our contingent reserve as budgeted in 2022. And finally, that leaves $10 million for our property replacement reserves, which are to be used for maintaining over 2,000 of the Housing Commission owned properties. So unrestricted net position is not really a discretionary type fund. So let's go to slide, actually for time purposes, let's go to slide 17, please. This chart shows our expenditures on homelessness activities, which has increased greatly in 2021 because we spent $190 million in homeless activities and with increases across all program activities. And we will continue to expend dollars across the board on homeless activities in the future as well. As you can see, the big area of permanent supported housing acquisitions and NOFAs, $112 million. In 2021, that was the hotels and permanent supportive housing. Let's go to slide 18, please. As you've heard many times before, the Housing Commission administered both the City of San Diego ERAP and HSAP programs. ERAP ended in December 2020. Almost $14 million in housing assistance payments were made. HSAP is currently ongoing, and through the end of FY21, we made more than $24 million in housing assistance and other housing cost payments. And as we mentioned earlier today, we have expended close to $118 million, and these programs have helped over 13,000 San Diegans. So let's go to slide 19, please. And finally, I want to conclude by highlighting that we still continue to receive certificates of achievement for excellence in financial reporting, 13 years for the comprehensive annual report and 11 years for the popular annual report. The popular annual report is really the cliff notes of the large annual report. And then on slide 20, that concludes the presentation. I want to thank everybody for their support, and I want to thank the whole board for their support for my tenure here for the last 9.5 years. The growth here has been tremendous, and that's really to the executive leadership here. Thank you.
Thank you. That was extensive. Do we have any public comments at this time?
There are no callers on this item.
Okay, that concludes public comment for item 105. Commissioners, any questions or comments? Commissioner Mitchell?
Just thank you, Tracy. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Anything else?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, we've got a motion on the floor. We're going to pause real fast and go to Rick for comment.
Just like to point out that there has the huge amount of growth in our operations over the last 13 years has been in the homelessness arena. And the bar graph that Tracy showed was very dramatic and descriptive. If you go all the way back to 2007, where we spent less than $5 million on homelessness, look at it now. It's shown a real increase in activities, and it's shown an expansion in the nature and purpose and function of this organization. There's a report that you all, I hope, have seen, if not read already, that we sent to you earlier this week. Earlier this summer, the City Council asked the independent budget analyst to do a comparison contrast of this agency's operation with a number of others in the state. Jillian Cassie put that together, and I commend it to you. It's an excellent report. It's the best I've seen describing this industry in California. It compares us as one of 12 agencies here. And two of her observations kind of grabbed me. One is that the great variance and differences between those 12 agencies across the state. But the one glaring exception here was the fact that no one in the state is doing, no other housing agency in the state has involved itself in the homelessness arena like we have. And I think it's come to define much of what we do. It came out of some strategic planning that this board did way back in 2013. And I think that the strategic planning that you all just concluded this past summer, looking at a similar kind of expansion in this agency's nature and purpose and function, could well have some of the same effects.
Hey, Karen. Good morning. How are you?
And with that, Madam, Madam Chair, I'll conclude my comments. Thank you very much.
Okay, Commissioner Mitchell, you might not be on mute. Let's give it a second. Commissioner Klempner or Vice Chair Klempner, Commissioner Hubbard, any feedback here? No. Okay, I will quickly comment. Tracy and Marie, again, thank you very much for your time here and your leadership within the commission. The growth is, I mean, I'm looking for a better word, but I will just call it wild. That is an incredible amount of money that the commission is taking in and sending back out. And I appreciate the way that you stewarded those funds and kept us in the clear. So thank you. And you routinely are the department that bring the most creative awards. These are organizations and trade groups I have never heard of that routinely are recognizing you. So thank you for being a leader. We have a motion. We're looking for a second at this point. Now, neither of you.
Second.
You can take it.
You just come off mute for fun. Okay, we've got a motion by Commissioner Mitchell, second by Commissioner Hubbard. Vice Chair Klempner.
Aye.
Commissioner Hubbard. We'll come back to you. Commissioner Mitchell. I saw you say aye, but you're still on mute. All right, we're going back to Commissioner.
Aye.
All right, Commissioner Hubbard.
Aye.
There we go. And I'll add my vote in favor. Chuck, you're going to have to tell me if it counts legally, if I can see them say the word aye, but they don't say it on the record. Because if that's the case, we could speed up a lot of meetings.
If you're sure they're saying yes, you certainly can do that, Madam Chair.
Ooh, I can be drunk with power. Okay, that motion carries unanimously. And as I mentioned earlier in the meeting, the closed session that was scheduled for today will be postponed to a future meeting. Is there anything before we close? Okay. This concludes the board's special meeting today. The meeting is adjourned at 10:27. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Tracy.
Thank you.